SAUCER.
I wonder what they're watching out there.
I tell you, I saw a flying saucer.
What are you fellas yapping about out here?
Duke just said he saw a flying saucer.
Only one? Nobody's got a right to brag these days unless they see at least 6. And in different colors.
This one was blue.
Boom! A flying saucer is spotted landing one night in a small town of Hicksville. That's right, Hicksville.
No, I'm not kidding. That's the name, Hicksburg. Scouts on it. It's a quiet.
Now, the 1950s was to these flying saucer movies, I guess, like we are today to superhero movies. That's basically the plot, though, to the lesser appreciated 1957 cult classic science fiction film, Invasion of the Saucermen. Even though at the time, Variety called it a minor entry for the science fiction trade. So normally when you think of 1950s science fiction films, ones like The Day the Earth Stood Still, War of the Worlds, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, or even Forbidden Planet come to mind. Or not. Anyway, this is one of those films. Doesn't usually appear in any top 10 greatest science fiction 50s movies list, but it definitely deserves a place among them, in my opinion. It takes a far less serious tone than those other ones and goes in a far more wacky direction, which I can appreciate. Sometimes you just gotta go with it. After watching this, I felt like I had just watched a spoof of 1950s science fiction invader films, just because of how many cliches it actually did have. It's almost like a how-to in making a 50s science fiction invaders from space type movie. I'll just go through it real quick. It has it all. It has a spaceship, check. Little green men with big brain heads. Now these little green men with big brain heads sort of reminded me of the ones used in the Tim Burton movie, Mars Attacks. It's like that standard kind of alien look that they had back then. And I don't even know if they used the term alien in any of these 50s movies. Check. Teenagers smooching at Lover's Point? Check. Government officials yelling at a spaceship? Check. And my personal favorite, a curmudgeon-y old man farmer who always carries a loaded shotgun and says lines like "corn sarn" and "smooching kids." And usually all the action is taking place on his land, thus his involvement in the story. So here we go, Invasion of the Saucermen. And I must say, I do love that title. It too sounds fake, as if it was like made up for part of the whole spoof. But it's not, it's the real deal, it's the genuine article, folks. I mean, just check out the poster for this movie. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. It's a painting, clearly, if not a total lie at the same time, as you will see. First of all, the little green men, as they call them, in the movie, do resemble these little green men, except for the fact that they're not that little here. They're pretty huge here. They're holding that woman like she's a doll, and they're actually dwarf-sized in the movie. And they never actually carry the woman at all, nor does she even resemble this woman in the poster. Then there's these 3 flying saucers in the background, and we only see one in the movie and it doesn't look like any of these. And finally, the large city that the flying saucers are attacking, when the movie actually takes place in a small town. We never see a big city like this. We barely see the small town of Hicksville. Now, this was a common theme on posters like this at the time, and sometimes even now, to make the effects on the poster look far more impressive than the ones in your actual movie. Now, this is a really short movie. It's one of the shortest ones I've ever seen. It's only 1 hour and 9 minutes, so it does have to move right along. Upon its original release, Invasion of the Saucermen was released in a double feature with the Michael Landon, now cult horror classic, I Was a Teenage Werewolf. So anyway, away we go. Starts off with a book of opening credits with some nice artwork of flying saucers and little green men. It reminded me a little bit of the opening titles to It's a Wonderful Life. I guess it was a cheaper way to make credits by just making a whole book of opening credits instead, and just film someone flipping through it. So this whole story is being told to us by a guy named Artie, who's hanging out in some eatery with his best friend, who's also an alcoholic apparently, played by Frank Gorshin. Now, if you don't know Frank Gorshin, he's best known for playing the Riddler in the 1960s TV version of Batman, the one with Adam West.
Before retirement. Oh, That's my partner. I'm the handsome guy on the left.
So anyway, Artie, who describes himself as the handsome one, even though he looks like one of the cavemen from the caveman commercials. And yes, I know, TV show too. So Artie and Frank Gorshin are like these two drifter guys looking for some story that they can exploit and make money off. So a very wasted Gorshin poorly hits on the waitress and...
Waiting here. Why don't you tell me how to get to first base with you tonight?
Then gets into a car and drives away looking for some action. While driving, he sees a flying saucer and witnesses it land. Naturally, he goes to check it out. So then we cut to a group of local teens hanging out at a gas station. Some of which also saw this flying saucer land and sort of just blow it off. That's when we meet our main character of the film, Johnny Carter. Johnny Carter? Wait a minute. Johnny Carter. John Carter? John Carter of Mars? Weird? No, nothing. Anyway, he's waiting for his girlfriend Joan to show up so they can join the gang at Lover's Point and, well, make out for hours on end. No sex though. It's the 50s.
Most of the gang's at Lover's Point.
Yeah, what a lousy way to spend a Saturday night.
He's saying out loud that making out with a girl all night sounds lousy. If I'm understanding that scene correctly. Hey, not that there's anything wrong with that. If the guy's gay, he's gay. It's just odd to see in the 50s someone kind of just saying that. Weren't they like, hey, buddy, why? Isn't that weird in the 50s? Now, Lover's Point is on the land of an angry old farmer whose name is Farmer Larkin. So he's always trying to scare these smooching kids off his land so they don't hurt any of his precious bulls, since some of the darn smooching kids sometimes like feeding alcohol to his bulls. Yep, that's what kids in the 50s did. So about this time, Gorshin gets a good look at the flying saucer and bails back to his car and takes off. He goes back to the place he's sharing with Artie, shakes him out of bed, and tries to convince him of what he just saw, but he just blows it off and goes back to sleep. So that's when the government gets involved, since it's now cover-up time. And this is where they start to ramp up the wacky with the kooky music and the over-serious United States Air Force colonel trying to cover up the flying saucer landing.
Army intelligence really scooped us that time.
Scoop, did you say?
Just a figure of speech, sir.
Well, it had better be, Lieutenant. I want to caution you about one thing.
Yes, sir.
I know that in civilian life you were a publicity man.
What are you getting at, sir?
Just this. Our job is to prevent a possible nationwide panic by keeping the information from the public.
So anyway, these officials head to the scene and nearly crash right into Johnny, since the idiot's driving around with no headlights on, because he's trying to avoid being spotted by Old Man Larkin and his shotgun filled with rock solids. So because of this, Johnny ends up smashing right into something crossing the road. First they think it's a little boy since it's so small, but a flash of lightning reveals something much different. It's some kind of creature, and they killed it. Sort of.
Johnny! You saw it, what is it? It's disgusting.
All thanks to him. Whatever it is, I killed it.
It's actually a saucer, okay? Probably figured that out already. But yeah, it's not totally dead, I guess, because this seemingly dead creature's hand lives on and attaches itself from the body and crawls away. It even comes equipped with its very own eyeball. Thing never needed an eyeball. So the hand then releases needles from its fingertips, like dripping with some sort of liquid, and pops Johnny's tire. So the two then have to go to Old Man Larkin's to use the phone to call for help. Because, of course, Johnny doesn't spare. Young kid. This turns out to be pointless though, since the phone isn't working and Old Man Larkin just hates everybody. And the random smell of alcohol in the air doesn't help your cause either.
You know, that's funny. I smell it too.
Yeah, I smelled it before.
Now you gotta keep this in mind. They put this whole smell of alcohol in the air thing for some reason. Clearly these two kids actually haven't been drinking, but there's this smell of alcohol in the air all the time. Yeah, there's payoff for that one. It's just nice that there is. So anyway, they head back to the car and hear what is clearly some sort of Martian chat that Johnny just blows off as being the wind.
that?
The wind, I guess.
Really, the wind? When has the wind ever sounded like that? So anyway, Frank Gorshin discovers the dead saucer man under Johnny's car. He runs over to Larkins to use the phone, just lets himself in, and the phone's actually working now for some reason. And Larkin's not there waving his gun around, which, can you really blame Larkin at this point? I mean, twice in the same night, strangers have just walked into his house to use the phone. I mean, no wonder he's a bitter old bastard. I mean, he probably was before that, but still, doesn't help the matter. Should have knocked on his fucking door at least. So Gorshin tells Artie to clear out the refrigerator because he's bringing home a dead saucerman and needs a place to store him. So, still drinking, Gorshin gets behind the wheel yet again and returns to Johnny's car to retrieve the corpse. But as we can see, he's being watched by some saucermen in the bushes. Now, the shots of the saucermen are used quite sparingly, sort of like in the movie Jaws. They probably didn't want to show it for too long because it looks so fake. And even though they only show it for seconds at a time, it still looks fake. If not creepy looking at least. So Gorshin goes into the woods to get a stick to pry the corpse off the bumper when he's attacked and repeatedly finger needle stabbed by one of the saucermen. So we cut to Artie, who's slowly emptying the fridge until he totally questions what he's doing and just goes back to bed after stuffing cotton balls into his ears to avoid any more interruptions from a drunk off his ass and clearly out of his mind Frank Gorshin. Anyway, we cut back to Johnny and John, who, while heading back to Johnny's car, hear some banging. So from a distance they can see one of the living saucermen using like this electric hammer to dent up Johnny's car for unknown reasons. So Johnny assumes the creatures blamed his car for the death of his friend. Good one, Johnny. They're just primitive idiots who can use electric tools that they brought along with them. And your guess is as good as mine. He did pass off alien chatter as just the wind. The wind, I guess. So instead of fucking around with that, they just turn back.
Johnny, let's get out of here.
So cut to the government officials from the Air Force who are fully involved in yelling at the spaceship.
Hello. You will not be harmed.
They even call it spaceship.
Can you hear me, spaceship? Answer me.
So at this point, bored of yelling at it, the government officials take a few shots at the spaceship, and it has absolutely no effect on the craft. So then we go back to Johnny and Joan, who now have met up with the police, and they tell them the little tale of Little Green Man.
Well, he couldn't have been over 4 feet high.
Yeah, he was all green except his head.
And just to point out, when Johnny's describing the Little Green Men to the police, he says they're all green except for their heads. So then the poster lies again. So naturally the police don't believe them in this whole bullshit cockamamie story they got of the Little Green Men, so they're arrested and hauled off to the station for murder. Back to our wacky government doofuses now trying to blowtorch their way into the spaceship when some sort of fire starts and they manage to blow it up and completely disintegrate the entire thing.
Hey, look at that! Looks like some sort of view! Hey, let's get out of
here! Whoopsie, I guess. That's the government for you, right? So any remaining little green saucer men at this point are now saucerless and trapped on Earth, I guess. I mean, did the saucermen not consider this? Leave at least one saucerman with the ship to like fly away in case they did something stupid like that? You know, for creatures with such big brains and space travel capabilities, they're kind of dumb. So at the police station, it is revealed that the body the police found under Johnny's car was not that of a little green man, but is actually the dead corpse of Frank Gorshin. Uh-oh.
Well,
I didn't run over this man.
are you still on that kick?
So now Johnny's really about to be booked for murder. And Joan's dad who shows up is like no help at all.
I thought you told me you were going out with Bill Thomas, not with this roughneck.
He calls him a roughneck. A roughneck? This guy? Johnny Carter the roughneck? No. He's wearing a suit, for crying out loud. Eddie Haskell was more of a roughneck. She could do a hell of a lot worse, Dad. So then Johnny comes up with a whole new theory on the creatures and assumes that they're a lot smarter than we actually think, and that they're denting up his car and putting a body there to purposely frame Johnny for murder for reasons they don't exactly explain, which I'm gonna guess are just for revenge for killing their buddy. He was driving around no headlights on after all. So then, in an act of desperation, Johnny and Joan jump out the window, steal a cop car, and head back to the scene of the accident to try and find some evidence to clear him. And while looking around at the scene of the crime, the detached hand comes back out of the woods and slips into the back of the police car. So Johnny and Joan find nothing of value and take off with the hand now in tow. And so the hand naturally goes for an attack with its leaky needle fingers and nearly gets Joan, but the two are able to pull over and bail out of the car, trapping the hand inside. Finally, some real evidence now. And it's in a cop car too. How convenient, right?
Take it easy, honey. I'm trapped in the car.
Then, thanks to Johnny's super memory, he recalls a small bit of information that he overheard at the police station. That being the address of Frank Gorshin's buddy Artie, the one sleeping with cotton balls in his ears right now. So they go there and tell him the whole tale.
It's without a doubt the craziest story that I've ever heard. Look, will you phone and check with the police?
And he doesn't seem all that bothered when the police even confirm that his friend, his buddy, Frank Gorshin, has been killed. Takes it pretty well, actually. Seemingly blows it off.
Wow, that's a hot one.
Well, what's so funny?
I was just thinking how Joe's gonna feel when I put him on exhibition as the world's first victim of the spaceman.
So Johnny and Joan swear they had nothing to do with it and want to take him to the cop car and show him the hand in the backseat. So Artie grabs his P-38 Walther and heads out the door.
Does it work? It worked all right for the Nazi I took it from.
So it's around this time that we get to see a violent showdown between Old Man Larkin's bull and one of the saucer men. It's goofy and weird and a little dark and painful looking when the saucer man gets a bullhorn to the eyeball. At least now he can wear a cool eye patch, like Snake Plissken, yeah? Johnny, Joan, and Artie get into Joan's car this time, and that's when they mention battery water. I'll mention that for a second.
When was the last time you checked the water?
Well, every time the man at the gas station asks me.
Not the radiator. He means the battery water.
Well, what's that?
You see, I'm with her. What the hell's battery water? Is that something from the 50s that I don't know about? That's made up for the movie? It's probably something from the 50s that I don't know about that we had to do with cars back there. Battery water. Something we don't do so much now. Because I've never heard of having to check your battery water. Then we get an Elvis reference in a time period where he was still fresh and relevant.
Watch your language. Elvis is very sensitive.
Elvis? Yeah, the gang calls her Elvis. She bends and shimmies, but she really goes.
Back at the saucer, the government cleans up their mess and discusses cover-ups.
Did you get rid of him?
Oh, yes, sir. I gave him the story that one of our jets crashed and that we were taking care of everything.
Did he believe you?
Colonel, sir, you're talking to the man that made the papers believe that 45-year-old B-girls were teenage maidens.
Did I hear that right?
Colonel, sir, you're talking to the man that made the papers believe that 45-year-old B-girls were teenage maidens.
45-year-old B-girls were teenage maidens. What the hell are they talking about? It's like another 50s thing or something? What the hell are B-girls and teenage maidens? I want to see a prequel based on that shit. So then you get the old government tie-in message, which is
Of course we do.
goofy, of course, about government cover-ups.
Colonel, this top-secret security business is like scratching. Once you get started, it's hard to stop. What are you getting at, Lieutenant?
Spit it out.
Well, did it ever occur to you, Colonel, that there might be other units just like ours covering up other things?
Yeah, think about it. So then cut back to Johnny and Joan, who are showing Artie the hand in the back of the cop car. Artie goes to take a picture of the hand as Joan holds a light on it, but like the spaceship sort of, it explodes and completely disintegrates. No more physical evidence.
I'll be.
It's gone.
But it was right there. I saw it.
They'll believe us when Art backs us up. They can't accuse him of being a hysterical kid. Come on, let's get to town.
Not a hysterical kid, nope. Nope, just a jobless drifter who carries a gun and is probably a reefer addict too. They'll believe him and his caveman face. So then the remaining saucermen emerge from the woods and start heading towards him. There's a mild shootout where the bullets simply bounce off the creatures with absolutely no effect. Bullets don't hurt them.
Bullets don't hurt him. You sure you're hitting them?
Johnny, use the spotlight. Turn the spotlights on.
Then they realize that it's by shining light on the saucerman that hurts him. After enough exposure, they completely explode and disintegrate.
It's the light that hurts.
And apparently their technology works the same way too, I guess. Kind of a weak-ass weakness, right? Is this where M. Night Shyamalan got that ending to the movie Signs? Where the alien's weakness was being hurt by water? This is a very inconvenient weakness that raises a lot of questions. Like sunlight must kill them. How do they travel through space and avoid the sun? So anyway, with their car battery dying and their headlights dwindling, they make a run for it. That's where Artie is attacked by the saucermen and dragged repeatedly with their needly fingertips. Then a bunch of them carry him away. Now, in an effort to rescue Artie from the saucermen, Johnny and Joan turn themselves into the police. Only they're no longer wanted for murder. Turns out that Gorshin didn't die from being hit by a car, but from alcohol poisoning? I mean, he was pretty loaded, but really? Alcohol poisoning? Oh.
The cause of death was heart failure due to alcoholism.
In fact, the alcohol content in his blood was the highest our coroner had ever seen.
Still wanting to rescue Artie, they enlist the help of the gang instead. You know, that being all the cool kids, still making out at Lover's Point. Still making up.
We were attacked by weird creatures. What?
Tom, Liz, you gotta help us.
And they captured him.
Police wouldn't believe us.
Will you help us?
Well, show me the way, come on.
It's around this time that we see Larkin discovering his bull, who got into the standoff with the saucer man.
I'll fix him.
Only the bull's not dead or anything, he's just drunk, apparently. Again. It's about that time that Johnny and Joan round up the gang and drive to the landing site to surround the creatures. And then blast their headlights on them all at once. It works, of course, and all the remaining saucer men explode and disintegrate, leaving behind nothing but a drunken, disheveled Artie, still alive.
Hey, what's happening? Where am I? Huh? You're all right.
So I guess the saucermen were here to abduct a human, and any random human, and then bring them back to their ship as a specimen, maybe? Their ship that had already been blown up at this point anyway, so no matter what, the saucermen were screwed. Unless they got to a cave somewhere before the sun came up, they'd be like vampires. Again, they're smart enough to build a spaceship, travel through space, avoid the sun somehow. The entire time they avoided the sun. They do any research on how Earth works? This is, again, one of those, the saucermen, one of them cases where it's just not a great plan. So with everything wrapped up and any evidence of anything having happened now disintegrated into the wind, we let Farmer Larkin have his last stand before kicking all these darn smooching kids off his property.
I'm going to take the law into my own hands. If you're not off of my land in 60 seconds, I'm going to start shooting.
So, like a sitcom, everything is as it was when the movie started, except Frank Gorshin. He's dead. Only why? The bull and Artie were attacked by the creatures in the same way, and they survived, Well, fret not, my friend. Our clever hero Johnny has it all figured out.
Oh, Johnny.
Just like his roommate. Do you get it, Joe? Acute alcoholism. These monsters kill their victims by sticking them with alcohol. Pure alcohol.
Well, why isn't he dead then, like Joe
Let
Grew?
me finish. You don't happen to die unless you're already loaded. And if you are, that's it.
Too much, huh? You just had too much.
That's right. The Saucerman would get you drunk. How nice. Free booze. Aww! You darn smooching kid killed the Saucerman! I was gonna offer myself to them as a human specimen, Karn Sarnet. What kind of alcohol you think they injected you with? Shit. So the movie ends with Artie's closing narration. That's right, he was telling the story, remember? Therefore you know he survives. Ah, you would have known this the whole time too had you thought of it. Which I didn't really think about it, but... It cuts back to the opening credits book that even though originally was opened by a human hand, is now closed by a Saucerman hand. And that's it. I guess Johnny and Joan go off and get married or something. Artie gets his big story that no one will ever believe, and angry old man Farmer Larkin is still angry old man Farmer Larkin with his shotgun. Darn kids, get off my land, Karn Sarnet, smooching douches. They didn't say douches. Only will the gang still return to Lover's Point, or they find a new place to call Lover's Point. Who cares? The movie's over, folks. Go to the lobby and get yourselves a snack or a treat. You know, like the song says. So that's the movie, basically. Now in the opening credits, it claims to be the true story of a flying saucer, but I don't know how true that actually is. But I think the joke is that since all the evidence blew up and disintegrated, you can't prove it anyway. It was clearly a bunch of made-up shit, but it was a really fun ride. And it all happened in one night, and there were no loose ends. Or were there? Hey, wait a minute. I just thought of something. Whatever happened to that dead Saucerman that Johnny hit? The one the other Saucerman switched out for Frank Gorshin. They weren't lugging his Saucerman corpse around with them, I know that. So that means it's still in these woods somewhere. Filled with alcohol. So as long as I can find it, before the sun comes up, I can tap it for any remaining precious Martian booze it has left inside of it. Shit! I gotta go look for this thing. So what can I say about this movie? Well, in movies like this, adults are dicks who think all teens are troubled losers. Then and now. Nothing really changes there. But it did feature all the sci-fi cliches you would expect from a movie like this. And unlike some of the far more remembered ones, it went for the more wacky approach instead of the more serious approach. The movie was actually originally written to be serious, but gradually developed into a comedy. Now, when it was released in its double billing with I Was a Teenage Werewolf, the poster's tagline actually said, "We dare you to see the most amazing pictures of our time." Now, I'm not so sure about that. Maybe in 1957 it was. That was their time. But they would churn movies like this out all the time back then, on really low budgets. 98% of Invasion of the Saucerman was filmed on a soundstage, like I said. Now, another interesting fact about this movie that I learned I thought was cool was Morbo, the newscaster on Futurama, was supposedly modeled around the Saucerman. So other people do appreciate Invasion of the Saucerman. It's just hard to find and you never hear about it. The poster seems more popular than the actual movie. And with that, it's worth mentioning the man behind the creature and spacecraft effects on the actual movie, Invasion of the Saucerman. His name was Paul Blaisdell, famous for his creature effect works on films like The Day the World Ended, It Conquered the World, and It Came from Hell. In the film, he supposedly even played one of the little green men at one point. I'm not sure where or which one, that's just something I read. The majority of them, though, were played by dwarves. Paul Blaisdell died in 1983 at the age of 55 from stomach cancer. So besides Frank Gorshin, who would later become the film's biggest star, it also featured an actor named Steve Terrell. He played the main character of Johnny Carter.
John Carter, boss.
He was born in 1929, and from everything I've researched on him, is still alive today at the age of 93. And in 1963, he actually left acting to commit his life to his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Yes, a very religious man. Him and his wife later started a theater troupe that still exists today. The actress Gloria Castillo played Joan in the film. After acting roles started becoming scarce for her, she opened a dress company with her husband and her brother. Sadly, due to carcinogens used in her dress factory, she developed a tumor and died from cancer in 1978 at the age of 45. And Lynn Osborne, who played Artie in the movie, died only a year after this movie's release. He died after having brain surgery. He was only 32 years old. Then there's Sam Buffington, who played Colonel Ambrose. And can you believe this guy is only 26 years old here? Yeah, no joke, seriously, I looked into this. He would often receive roles for playing older characters because of this. He committed suicide by gas inhalation in 1958. Damn, a lot of depressing endings here. Well, to end all that on a better note, the actor who played Old Man Farmer Larkin was an actor named Raymond Hatton. He did a ton of character actor roles for decades. He was born in 1887 and died in 1971 at the age of 84 of a heart attack, only 5 days after the death of his wife, of whom he had been married to for 62 years. Aw, that's cute. Isn't that sad, loving, and adorable? And it's a lot happier of an ending, I think, than some of these other ones. And now, my final thoughts. It was a fun and easy watch, and I think it was more of an influence on 50s science fiction than it gets credit for. My biggest question is still how these creatures built a spaceship, flew to Earth with the intent to get a human specimen by injecting them with enough booze so that you and your other little green men can carry them back to your ship and fly home and avoid any contact with life the whole time. They had no plan. Huge brains, no basic sense. They took time out of their mission to try and frame Johnny for murder to get revenge on him. And they failed at that too. Seems pretty stupid to me. Maybe they were just a bunch of Martian idiots on their own planet who stole a spaceship and somehow flew it to Earth. I don't know. To gain the acceptance of their own people, they tried to do the impossible by flying to Earth, capturing a human, and returning him safely to their own planet without being touched by light the whole time. It's a theory for a prequel. Anyway, that's it for now, before I go off trying to logically break down a science fiction movie from 1957. So bye for now, and I'll see you at the movies. Adios, folks. Oh shit, here it is. A dead saucer man. I better start pumping this thing now. The sun will be up any minute. Shit. Alright, saucer man, here we go.
You've seen the movie, now own the new game that everyone will be talking about. The Invasion of the Saucermen drinking game. Now, you and your friends can have just as much fun with Saucermen as the smooching kids from the 50s did. Choose your player.
I'm Frank Gorshin. Ooh. I'm Johnny.
I guess that means I'm Caveman Face Artie. Oh well. Roll the dice and make your move. If you land on the bottle, you have to take a drink. But be careful, after 4 drinks, if you land on a saucer man, you die. And have to start all over.
Great, I'm dead. I hope you all mourn for me more than they did for Frank Gorshin.
Yeah! I won! In your face, saucer man! Yeah! Fuck that! Shit, yeah! Meaning you could be drinking all night and actually die from alcohol poisoning. Yay! I won! I'm a success in life now! In your face, saucer man! Bah! Your goal is to be the first to make it to the landing site and win the game. I love this game. Use strategies like taking a shortcut past Old Man Larkin's house. But be wary, if you land on Old Man Larkin, he shoots you with rock salts, sending you all the way back to the beginning. I know. I got saucer man. Bye. Yeah! You suck! Ed Nelson. Invasion of the Saucermen, the drinking game. The must-own drinking game for anyone who likes drinking in 50s sci-fi. Finally, these two pastimes meet. Buy it today, you lush. Only $49.99. Please drink responsibly.
Fuck this game, man. shithead, you're a sore loser.